First of all, thank you very much for joining us here in this session dedicated to smart mining. I hope that you're having a wonderful conference. I think we all agree of the amazing work that has been done by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to put this conference together. This session on smart mining is going to be dedicated to technology. The use of technology to be able to enhance the capacities of the mining sector and turn Saudi Arabia into a leading mining jurisdiction in the next few years. We're going to have a series of different panels, presentations, a handful of tech talks, meaning that people are going to present the latest technology in geochemistry, in sustainability, in safety, all those technologies that's going to be extremely important to integrate in the development of the mining sector in Saudi Arabia. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to start with the first panel that's going to be setting the stage of the use of technology in the mining sector here in Saudi Arabia. And I'd like to, therefore, call here upon the stage Jim Keravala, Chief Executive Officer of Offworld. Jim is going to be moderating this panel. Saud Al-Mandil, if you can give us the honor of joining us. Saud is Vice President of Technology and Research and Design in Ma'aden, so obviously a very well-gifted person to talk about those issues. Brian Anderson, please, if you can join us, Director, National Energy Technology Laboratory. Christian Aramayo, Chief Operating Officer of Kuya Silver, a very interesting mining project in Peru. Ana Cabral Gardner, who is Co-Chief Executive Officer and Co-Chair of Sigma Lithium Corporations, a mining company in Brazil that does extremely good work in Minas Gerais and Bahia. And last but not least, obviously, from Metso Outotec, a very impressive company, Teras Varsara Marcu, I apologize if my accent was not perfect, but President Minerals of Metso Outotec. So without further ado, I just lay you to take it away and
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the panel, everyone.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your patience and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually very happy to say that amongst a string of MOU signings that Ma'aden has just undertaken in the presence of His Highness, Offworld, my company, with many of our team here on our swarm robotic mining systems, was also one of those participants. So thank you very much, Saud, for all the work and trust in building the future together. So I'd like to just rapidly introduce the panel very quickly, and then we'll dive in. We have 30 minutes, so I'll go straight in. Of course, we have Saud Al-Mandil, who's Vice President of Technology and Research at Ma'aden. We have Ana Cabral Gardner, who's the co-CEO of Sigma Lithium Corporation. We have Brian Anderson, Dr. Brian Anderson, who's Director of the National Energy Technology Laboratory. We have Christian Aramayo, Chief Operating Officer of Kuya. And last but not least, we have Marcu Teras-Vasara, President of Minerals, Metso. So without further ado, I'll just dive in. I'm going to ask Saud our first question, and then we'll keep this conversational. I'll stimulate some questions and thoughts, and please feel free to be as contentious and as challenging as possible, for that's what creates change. So Saud, how are data and AI allowing us to have greater insights in exploration, processing, and autonomy in order to drive down costs and maintain speed of operations?
Thank you, Jim. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to Saudi. If this is your first time, I hope you're impressed by the transformation that's happening in the country, including the mining and metals industry. And if it's your second time, you've been to the FMF last year, I hope you see the momentum, how it's keep building up from last year, and the growth in the industry. Technology, very interesting subject. I think if you made it to this room, you must be an enthusiast or already you're within technology, whether in the industry or not. So I'm not going to get too technical into this, but let me just state that data and AI have truly been unlocking value for this industry in different applications across the value chain and in very important aspects of safety and sustainability. With this said, we all understand the amount of data that we get into industries that have been enabled by the I 4.0 industries when it comes to the IoT sensors, when it comes to the technologies that enable us to compile data from our operations. But more interestingly, some of the recent practices that we are adapting additional technologies to pile up even additional data. So we are not satisfied with the data that we have, because if we know AI models to be tuned and to be optimized, they love more data, because more data give us better performance in the models of artificial intelligence. They give us greater confidence in the predictions that we have and more optimized models. So with this said, I'll just state a few examples just to enlighten the discussion here and probably open the door for other areas or applications within the industry. So within the exploration, so the use of drone technology and how it's been helping us truly to collect data into the electromagnetic, doing some of the surveying. There's not only very much some research say 5 times faster collecting some of this data, but it's producing more accurate data. This is what truly matters. More accurate data give us better predictive models of the deposit locations that we can explore and mine for, and then reducing cost and reducing time for this. Other areas of operations when it comes to predictive maintenance, digital twins, and how it enables us to do a lot of the simulation and forecasting that truly enable us to reduce cost, maintain productivity, and throughput. Safety, you name it, or the use of wearables on our workers and our drivers, the use of GPS locations of the haulage trucks and the routes, truly enabling us to compile very important data that once employed into certain models targeting safety and preventive safety, it will truly help us into better keeping our workers out of hazardous way. Last but not least, the sustainability, and we all understand, I think, the pressures of sustainability to decarbonize the industry and reduce the emissions. Truly, data is still helping a great role there because it truly enables us to see and visualize how we are keeping up on this journey and the targets that we are putting, and then enable us to do predictive models to truly track our progress toward achieving our net zero carbon neutrality objectives.
Saad, thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive review of that flow of information technologies that we can bring and apply to the other processes that we're using in the industry and how we can adapt and improve them. And when we're talking about flows, particularly the flows of energy and the flows of water are critical in the mining sector. And so I would like to ask Brian and Christian respectively, in terms of energy and water. Brian, what do you see as the main thrusts of technology advancement in the better management of energy utilization in the mining process?
Well, I'd also like to thank the organizers and thank you, Jim, for having me here. We're at the National Energy Technology Laboratory. We are the U.S.'s national lab that's been doing mining since 1910, since our founding. Today, a lot of our focus is on individual technologies that help reduce the energy footprint, the carbon footprint, and the total environmental footprint. And many of the technologies Saad already touched on, whether it's the development of new sensors that are useful in extreme environments, whether it's a corrosive environments, high temperature, high pressure, subsurface environments that have high enough resolution to pick up some of the small components, whether it's the components, the impurities that we want to avoid to enable real-time processing, as well as feeding into large data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And one area that I wanted to bring up is specifically in the area of prospecting, where one big effort that we're working on is how we put together different data layers in a geostatistical, geospatial data analytics method to better predict the hotspots for things like critical minerals and rare earth elements. And so in sedimentary basins, when you layer on both the sedimentary geology of the depositional environment plus the measurements that we can get from boreholes and from existing known mining concentrations, we start to be able to develop a better predictive model of hitting the hotspots for mining. And that in itself helps reduce the environmental footprint and potentially enabling the type of in situ mining that we may be able to achieve. That think of it as laparoscopic. When we look at the unconventional hydrocarbon space, we've had great advances in horizontal drilling and fracturing, and we think that combination of extractive methods with a smaller surface footprint while doing some in situ mining for critical minerals, you really could unlock a great potential. And as I pass it to Christian, because I know one big area for us is unlocking the potential in unconventional sources.
Yeah.
The unconventional sources being, a lot of opportunities for tailings, reprocessing, for flowback and produced waters from the oil and gas sector, for extraction of other minerals. And for us in the U.S., we've really tackled on coal mining and coal waste, coal tailings, acid mine drainage, sludge, and the ability to process already environmental legacy impacts to then extract minerals from those unconventional sources.
And so it's more about the specific energy efficiency of utilization in specific areas as well.
Yes, absolutely. So all of these individual technologies have been put together in the total mining system create the increments that we need to bring down the energy footprint of the mining system, as well as reducing the waste that are then require a heavy energy footprint in the processing side.
Good. And my apologies, Christian. Please hold. Markku, sorry, I want to ask you on the water front, on the water flows. Please tell me, in parallel, as we're managing and better utilizing the specific energy and the footprints, how can we improve our water utilization through the use of technology? Very vital for the region here.
Yeah, I would agree. Thanks, Jim, and I would agree that this very burning topic for the area. And Metso Outotec, we are in the value chain, starting from basically comminution, going down with separation, dewatering, and then finally metals refining. So if you look at the concentrator plant process, that is a number of individual equipment operations that consume water. And ideally, if you take the highest approach, of course, ideally, ultimately, we would like to have a concentrator plant only applying dry separation, but we are not there yet. So then we need to look at what are the next steps, and then taking a step down, of course, almost all the material that we are processing in a concentrator plant will end up in a tailings pond or somewhere where you store your waste rock. So if you can process less material by pre-concentrating it or you applying sorting, then again you avoid consuming water. And then of course if that doesn't help, then with the process as such, what really is the problem in concentrator plant in water management is actually the fines. So if you can separate your ore or metal from coarser material, again you will have less problem with water, and ultimately you will come into the tailings, and then with help of thickening, filtration, recycling the water as such. Yeah. That has some problem because you typically accumulate some of the substances that actually will make flotation process a bit less efficient. So you need to have the knowledge to take those away, and that is one area definitely we are working on. But these are the kind of steps in various orders, and then also applying. I think it was already mentioned that what as an example from Saudi Arabia, for example, using other water sources. So we are at the moment building a plant here which will use community wastewater as a process water. We will purify that, we will take away the particles that are harmful for the flotation, and then use municipality wastewater for processing. And you can use seawater, or you can use from the oil industry, as was mentioned. So there are plenty of ways to take care of the water problem, and I feel that this is really becoming an important topic in many areas.
Thank you, Markku. Before, Anna, did you have a particular comment?
No, it's a very refreshing point that was made by Metso, because in addition to running Sigma, I'm the co-founder of the fund that controls it. And when we decided to build the concentration plant, which is basically commissioning now, we had to make a decision and it was a very hard decision technologically that was based on environmental ground. In other words, we chose dense media separation versus flotation because the purpose of my fund was to eliminate tailing dams to begin with. So dense media separation allowed us to more easily plug in the thickener and the dry stacking circuit. And we were the guinea pigs with the supplier to test the ultrafines dry stacking, which just shows that in 2022, we were the guinea pigs of the dry stacking circuit, which means no one was focusing on processing technology as a means to reaching sustainability. And now that there's a lot of focus on increased recoveries from flotation, I mean, flotation, DMS, hasn't received any investment in like 30 years. I mean, our fund was one of the few ones to deploy capital in clean tech and green tech as it applies to processing and to separation. I mean, we took that DMS technology, which is borrowed from diamonds, basically. It was sort of used in lithium, but just in half the separation of lithium. The other half was flotation. And we made it a whole concentrator separation technology by automating it and then digitalizing it. We built our own algorithm. But the point is, no one had done it. So part of the fact that Sigma became such a success is resulting from the fact that we actually took the risk of investing in separation technologies, processing technologies, when it wasn't really fashionable because of environmental concerns. Believe me, no one cared. In fact, people thought that we were a bit odd in even deploying capital and forsaking recoveries on the grounds of environmental and sustainability concerns. This was just, 2019.
So you know what's fascinating about what I've heard so far, and Christian, forgive me just to interject here, is that if I'm not mistaken, it seems to me that the application of effort and technology and process earlier in the stage can increase the leverage of that technology for both
Greatly.
environmental and cost benefit.
Yes.
And traditionally in the mining sector, because we have not, over the last 50 to 75 years of the industrialization curve, we've not really worried about the environmental factors up until maybe a decade or two ago. So we've gotten into this lazy fashion of creating lagging technologies that push the problem to the end, where we've got these huge tailing dams that nobody cares about. And what I'm seeing with all of this commonality of insights is that we're actually using technology to draw our efforts earlier on in the process, so we're manipulating less and less waste and focusing the energies on the key aspect of mineral as early as possible. And if I may, Marco, just Christian, how do you think that affects the whole cost structure and capex and the capital deployment of where we might go with this?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for being here. I think that cost is being increasingly benefit from technology because it allows us to surgically extract certain things that were not able before. For instance, although I do agree that the environmental is a very big concern, talent attraction, I think, is also very, very important in mining industry. We are not, let's say, the most attractive or welcoming industry for younger generation, and that is because working conditions are tough, including safety. Robotics is helping us a lot in burying, for instance, in doing an underground mine. You don't want people to be burying there, drilling and blasting. We're using robots to start doing that, automating process as well, as Anna was mentioning, not only reduce the amount of energy, but also reduce the size. Let's say if I can automate 2 scoops going into an underground gallery, I can make the gallery by itself smaller, meaning that my footprint is smaller, my capex is smaller, because remember that big portion of my capex will be the development of the underground facility, talking about an underground mine, until I get to the vein itself. So if I can make everything smaller and also cost efficient, because the robot and the automation will actually be built to go in and back in the same way, therefore energy will be reduced. The only challenge will be how this robot will interact with people, because I cannot take out of people of the mine, because I will get in a big social problem, because although I would try to make everybody working from their office and everybody comfortable in wherever they are living, we cannot do that, because we know that in several places of the world, like South America, where we are basically located, that will create us conflicts. We want them to be as safe and efficient as possible, and that will help us also to manage water in a most efficient way, because if we can automate the process and we can have robots doing all what we should be calculating, estimating, let's say, and readjusting, then my water usage go lower. First of all, maybe if I have less people, I need less utilities in an underground facility, therefore less water. If I have robots, I create different jobs. When people say we're working in mining, they don't necessarily need to be working on the mine. They will need to be learning how to weld, for instance, nickel alloy welding for the robots, or all the kind of alloys that you need, all the circuits that you need to build, and the network that you need to build for the robot to interact, the EA, all the neurologically connected synergies and synapses that the robot need to have in order to act, will create traction within the younger generations, and as a result, also with environment.
And you know, I couldn't agree more, because you know, Christian, we resonate very much, because the philosophy we have at Offworld, for example, in the deployment of our autonomous swarms of mining robots, are to liberate the mineral as close as possible to the original rock face as we can, and move waste rock as few meters as possible. Mm-hmm. And so literally, eventually, we just want our treasure bots to bring out mineral on ingots, and that will be it. So that I think the opportunity exists with everyone on this panel and all of us working together. The opportunity exists within a decade to turn the process of mining from an industrial, intrusive, penetrative, dirty, non-environmentally sensitive sector into an ecological, harmonizing process that both maintains the environment, reduces cost, redefines how people work into much more inspiring and future-facing jobs, and bringing technology into the place so that mining becomes not only the sexiest industry in the world, but the most environmentally reconfiguring sector in the world. We can actually turn mining into a net positive from a cost, education, cultural, and environmental perspective. And I think that's a huge opportunity we have. Now, how do we bring that narrative together so that all the pieces of the puzzle, from energy, from water, to automation, to data, to even, as you say, excuse me, the culture of the workforces in these regions where their whole livelihood is dependent on these mines. How do you reduce that fear and allow the community and the social contract to then meet that future as well? So, Anna, please.
You need purpose. I mean, you need long-term, purpose-driven capital. That's why I think the JV between PIF and Ma'aden was so exciting, because that's the kind of capital I have under management.
Right.
And we've been, well, Sigma's been held like this for 10 years. We've been there for 7 years, and we don't have an exit sort of obligation. But we took it through the cycle, irrespectively of the price cycles, irrespectively of the capital markets, because there was that purpose of building. I mean, we're not a mining fund, we're an impact fund. And when our peers ran away from the sector to do inclusive digital because mining had single-handedly lost its social license in Brazil as a result of tailing dams collapsing, we went straight into the heart of the problem with the apparatus we had on technology and with the apparatus we had on sustainability, the matrix, social, environmental, to solve that issue.
But this is unusual, because you started a fund and then you dove straight into the center of the technology problem as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it's another way that Ma'aden and PIF coming together.
That's right. We've had the fund, but that was exactly the idea. We had the fund. We were going to go to do fintech like everyone else in 2016. And then this happened, this first tailing dam collapse. And we said, why should we as an impact fund be doing digital inclusion versus let's just go solve the issue? Because in addition to that, you have climate action. So mining is key to decarbonizing. We saw this in 16, but now I think it's pretty clear to everyone that without mining, there's no energy transition. So how do you reconcile this? Exactly what you said with sustainability, where everyone is happy. You lift communities. But what does it take? Well, it's huge effort. Why is that? Because you're doing it while you're not producing revenues. This is sort of how you avoid a legacy. That's why I think the opportunity here is so large, because you're going to build it right from the beginning. So by the time you produce, you're not going to have a contingency from your decisions made during development, during feasibility, during when it's really hard, because you don't have any money, you're small. A lot of these juniors are hostages to capital markets. They don't like to hear this. So you need that sort of, let's say, backing. It's not a coincidence. A lot of our investors are from the region, right?
Right.
That long-term thinking, that alignment, so that you build it right.
So to Saud, just briefly, and then please comment as you wish as well. I mean, Saudi, the kingdom, I think it's fair to say, is a fairly young mining kingdom, but with a very forward-looking ambition, very progressive thought process, and the financial and intellectual resources to lead the way and make a change. How do we, or how, for example, is Ma'aden and the kingdom going to take mining forward with all these technologies without pushing us over the climate cliff to try and extract all the materials needed to not push us over the climate cliff?
Excellent question. So technology is not the solution by itself. So technology is part of the equation.
Yes.
We heard the need for the talent. We heard the need for the investment. We heard the need overall for a vision of why we need all that. And I believe that has been established with the pressures of the decarbonization that we all realize for the planet, and also for the critical minerals that are required for the energy transition that is happening.
Yes.
So when we talk about technology, yes, very crucial. However, the talent behind it and attracting the talent that is required, we are seeing influx of data scientists walking into the industry as an example, in addition to technology experts and robot experts and so on. That is definitely is helping the industry move on and truly leapfrog into the targets that we have established rather than the small steps required.
Very good, very good. Good. Then, so look, in the last few minutes, would members of the panel, or even if any of the members of the audience have a burning question, any points to raise or close with on particularly how we're bringing all this technology and innovation together? What are the real, maybe one question I might have, if there are no takers, what is the most challenging problem? And bearing in mind it's not just a technology issue, what's the most challenging technological problem that we need to solve?
I think that one of the problems that we need to solve is thinking the problem first and the solution later. As I have seen a lot of minings thinking, I'm going to use electric cars or scoops to go from one place to the other. So that's not solving the problem. You should ask, why should I move, as you were saying, to try to use the less effort? Why should I move first? So once you understand that what you're trying to solve, then you can bring, as Saud said, the technology as a tool. You can bring one supplier, you can bring the fund, you can bring whoever once you have what you have to solve. So right now, I think a lot of people are trying to rush into technology without even understanding what they are doing or why they are doing, and that by itself will make projects more expensive.
Especially at a systems level.
Yes.
Markku, please.
Yeah, well, I'm an optimist, so I don't talk about challenge, but an opportunity. I think, of course, we know that mining is quite conservative industry, so we need to. But I feel a change. So I think people are willing to change. It's the environmental sustainability issues are higher on agenda. Maybe we don't always need to do the giant leaps. We can do small improvements in everything we do, and then ultimately resulting in good way. Quite often today already you can steer things by regulation, but you can also develop products like what we like to do. In all the new product development, we have sustainability as number one criteria. And that is getting a lot foothold. So when we see that we can do even a 10 or 15% improvement on energy consumption or water usage or something, those products has become extremely popular at the moment. So we are getting good traction on that. So I'm hopeful.
Very good. And Brian? go ahead.
So I have one, and it's really for our ESG technologies to keep up with demand. Because as you're alluding to, we're looking at for critical minerals, let's say lithium maybe an 8x over the next 20 years in terms of demand, everything from cobalt, nickel, manganese, graphite. We're looking at maybe a 4 or 5x demand. And we're also going to be moving to lower grade resources as we move down the resource curve. And so for us to be able to develop these technologies from the beginning, that then we're in not moving as much waste material in the end, we're going to have to move technology forward to keep up with that demand.
If I may add, they say every challenge can be an opportunity. I think the opportunity for us, not only in technology within the industry, but also from the different elements within the industry, is to collaborate and to have partnerships. I believe the number of the agreements and MOUs and in this event by itself, and we're only the first day of the event, reflects the level of collaboration.
We could
and
tell
the
by the
interest
delay.
and how this is important into the way forward, and to have accelerated steps to truly leverage previous learning curves.
It's a huge problem. We can only do it together. Anna?
No, it's the same. I think I'm an optimist, and I think 2023 is probably one of the most exciting years this industry has ever seen, because you now have the three main markets fueling, like on 12 cylinders, right? It was just a China story, EVs, when we started. Then it became China in Europe. Now you got China in the US. And then you have the Middle East offering this platform for the processing, for the midstream, powered by Scope 2 that's zero carbon. It's natural gas and abundant renewables. So solar. So it's the perfect location. So I'm very excited about what's happening here. I've been coming to the region for a while, but this is fantastic. And ultimately, it's the collaboration, because each party brings something to the table. I mean, for example, where we come from in Latin America has the minerals. But then here you've got a very stable jurisdiction with this mindset of green mining, with technology. And it's a platform that's, basically friendly to the East as well. So you actually access 100% of the market once you set yourself up here for midstream chemicals processing, but differently than before, with the carbon in mind. So probably Saudi Arabia will lead the decarbonization of these critical materials, I think.
Wonderful. No, very beautifully said. And look, with that, I would like to thank our amazing panel. It's a privilege to share the stage with you, and the amazing work that everybody is doing. And as you say, Saud, we need to work together and collaborate for this future that we're building together. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience and your attention, and enjoy the rest of the event.